Illuminati, you'll never take control. Your new world order will lead to none at all. We all stand before you as well. Illuminati, you'll never take control. Your new world order will lead to none at all. We all stand before you as well. Oh. Testing, testing, testing! And welcome once again. Well, you know already, if you've been watching the past couple of streams, and somebody's getting mad at me. Oh boy. There's some mad Freemasonic faggots out there who can't stand. See, they hate something they hate the most is being revealed. They hate that shit. But the way I see it is this. They don't give a fuck about us, so I don't give a fuck about them. You know, I woke up today, and for some reason, the first thing I thought about was how dumb you people really are. I'm talking about you, the cattle, the sheeple, the profane, the heathens, what they call the masses. I call the asses. You really are stupid motherfuckers. It just dawned on me how stupid the average American really is. And they're proud to be stupid. That's the most incredible part. You motherfuckers are proud to be stupid. It looks like all the propaganda over the years that they have taught you in your schools, on television, in the movies, and the music has finally achieved its goal. We have the biggest population of idiots ever. Right now, the population of this country is the biggest fucking bunch of idiots ever. God damn it, if it's not true. It's true, it's true, it's true. And you're proud of it. That's the most incredible part. It's cool and trendy to be stupid. You deserve your fate. Unfortunately, many of us who are not stupid like you are going to have to die as well. Oh boy. Well, let's get started. Let's get fucking started. Today, I'll be reading once again from William Cooper's Mystery Babylon. What's going on here? William Cooper's Mystery Babylon series, transcribed. That's right. There's no excuse anymore of saying, oh, the show quality, its quality, the original show's quality is no good. I can't understand what he's saying. I don't understand what he means. Was he for a mystery religion? Was he against the mystery religion? No. It's clear. HD audio, video. Word for word, I am going to be reading what this man was saying. So there be no fucking doubt. And when I have a particular opinion, as I've been doing, I'll stop and pause and let you know that it's coming from me instead of the author. Those of you, and once again, those of you who get offended, if you're against it or for it, I don't give a flying fuck what side you fall on. If you get offended, you don't want to hear it, get the fuck off the channel. It's simple. Hey, Vintage Weeb, what's up? I'm glad you finally discovered this channel. How did you hear about it? Well, if you remember, I don't know if you watched the video, I told you guys on my old channel that they were about to delete me, and they did. What these sons of bitches have figured out, what they do is they purposely let you upload videos which they know sometime in the future they can come back and say, oh, that's not, you can't have this on here. This is what these bastards at YouTube have realized, a loophole, a little hole in the wall, a little crack in the wall. They've discovered that they'll let you upload videos which they know full well go against their goddamn terms, their rules, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Then they wait. And if you do something that they don't like, if you're doing videos that they don't approve of because of its content, then they'll take the videos which they allowed to be uploaded, which break their rules and regulations, and use that as an excuse to delete the rest of your channel, which is what they have a problem with. Fuck you, socialist pigs! Fuck you! And that's what happened. Well, I'm glad you're here, Vintage Weeb. And if you have been in contact with everybody else that used to be on the old channel in any way, shape, or form, please contact them, send out messages and stuff to them, and let's see if we can get the old group back. Let's see if we can get people back onto the channel. Spread the word. I've been on here for a couple of months now because I was debating whether or not to return. But if I didn't return, it would have showed these bastards, okay, that I gave up all my enemies. Not only YouTube, not only the assholes that run YouTube, but the enemies here on YouTube, other fucking YouTubers who have a beef with me. Fuck you. Fuck off and die too, motherfuckers. That's what you are, useless eaters. Ted Turner is right. Jane Fonda's husband is absolutely right when he calls y'all useless eaters. Because all you do is complain all day. And it amazes me. It amazes me how no matter what it is these idiots believe in, the aliens, Nephilim, Jesus is coming back. No, it's not. No, he's not. And if you don't want to believe me, fine. Read your Bible. If you say the Bible is the word of God, then you better read it again. You better read it again. Because Jesus was very clear in that Bible, okay, what would happen when people started saying he was coming back. But I digress. Let's get to it. But to do it, there's nothing to it but to do it. Let's go. Initiation. That's right. Initiation. You're listening to the Hour of the Time. I'm William Cooper. From Tinker Bell to Artie Shaw to George Bush's 1,000 Points of Light, America has been mesmerized by stardust since its very inception. And now America is beginning to learn what all these references to the star, the morning star, wish upon a star, stardust really is all about. There was something very strange about the classical mysteries, something which attracted people to them, and having attracted them, made their initiates, with very few exceptions, permanent devotees. In Egypt, Greece, India, Rome, and a dozen other places and countries, sacred initiations took place in specially prepared sanctuaries, usually in a cave or underground. How appropriate. Priests of the mysteries enjoyed the profound respect of the masses. I call you the asses. As well as that of kings and counselors. And in those days, there was nothing really secret about it, except the initiation rites and the knowledge which they retained for themselves, giving only the exoteric to the people. The exoteric is the outward meaning that they give to you and me, that they want you. I'm looking at people who are watching this 666 Antichrist Superman movie, because that's what it is. That's what it is. And they're like, I don't under. It goes right over their head. They went to go see it, thinking they're gonna like it, but it tells you, it shows you, you should know by now you're not gonna like it. What recent movies starring Superman were any good? None of them. And yet people fall for the propaganda. They see Superman fighting a big giant kaiju monster, and they fall for it. They fall for it. And they only fall for the exoteric, the outward, what they're watching, But they don't know none no better. They don't know what the message. I can't wait to watch this damn movie. I'm going to watch this shit so I can catch all the crypto Jew Freemasonic garbage in it. Oh boy. And in those days, there was nothing really secret about it, except the initiations, rites, and the knowledge which they retained for themselves, giving only the exoteric to the people. What were the mysteries? Until relatively recently, and relying upon comparatively scattered fragments such as Apuleius' golden ass, Apuleius's golden ass, historians and religious writers had formed an opinion of them which has been shown to be extremely naive, if not outright false. They knew that at the ceremonies, symbolic teaching took place, and hence inferred that the mysteries were a relic of the times when academic knowledge was guarded by the very few, and scientific truth, such as Pythagorean theorems, were given only to the elect. They knew also that orgiastic drumming and dancing formed a part of many of the rituals, and therefore told their readers this was a degenerate form of religion, or a mere excuse for licentiousness. They found that stories of ancient gods and heroes were recited, and were sure the mysteries constituted little more than an underground survival of prehistoric religion, magic, or tribal initiation. Or maybe that's exactly what they wanted us to believe. knowing full well that it was false. And, of course, if those who did the writing were members of the mysteries, they would never have allowed the secrets to be revealed to the profane. That's you and me. That's what they call us. You don't know what profane means? Look it up. Google it. Find out what they consider you and me. But times have changed, folks. The study of brainwashing and mind control and conditioning the mind within the past decade or so has helped to lay bare the essence of the mysteries and has answered the riddles which surrounded them. You see, in this process, those who have tried to keep the celebration of the mysteries alive, who have tried to revive them, have been shown up as relying upon the symbolic interpretation alone. And this revelation has been in its own way, has been one of the most startling developments of contemporary religion. You see, for almost anyone, for instance, can get away with telling anyone else that he was an Egyptian priest in a former incarnation, because there is so very little verifiable material available to prove the reverse. It becomes obvious, though, when you attend a party populated by these nuts, when 6 people introduce themselves as having been Abraham Lincoln in a past life. Okay, Vintage Weeb. Just answering what he said there. But let anyone attempt to celebrate any of the ancient mystery cults' rituals, and unless he has a sound idea on how the human mind works, he is unlikely to escape the criticism of those psychologists who now see in the mysteries an almost open book. So let us return to a sketch of the conventional knowledge about the mysteries. In those of Eleusis, celebrated in Greece, the candidate had to undergo fasting or abstinence from certain foods. There were processions with sacred statues carried from Athens to Eleusis. Those who were to be initiated waited for long periods of time outside the hall in the temple where the rites were to be held, building up a tremendous tension of suspense. Eventually, a torchbearer led them within the precincts, usually underground. The ceremonies usually included a ritualistic meal, 1 or 2 dramas, the exhibition of sacred objects, the giving of the word, an address by the Hierophant, and oddly enough, closure with the Sanskrit words Kansha Om Paksha. The elements included a clashing of cymbals, tension, and a certain degree of debilitation, eating something, plus conditions which were all-inspiring, strange. The candidate was in the hands of and guided by the priesthood. Other factors, drinking a soporific draught, symbolic sentence of death, whirling around a circle. Initiation ceremonies of certain secret cults, the mystery type, invariably involve tests, sometimes most severe ones. The effect of certain experiences was a carefully worked program of mind training, which is familiar in modern times as that which is employed by certain totalitarian states to condition or reshape the thinking of an individual. And I pause here to tell you, study Nazi Germany, study National Socialism, study what Himmler was doing with the SS. And that's going on right now with our own military and so-called police. Oh, and let me just say something. I find it so amusing that when you watch these police videos now, okay, with their cams on their body cam videos, ain't it interesting that in the description, the people they go after, the people they arrest or they're chasing or whatever, they have guns. They're using guns. They're using weapons. But the cops don't use guns. They're being called service tools. What the fuck? You see, they're such hypocritical pieces of shit. When you have a gun, it's an illegal weapon. It's a firearm. When the pigs use a gun, it's a service tool. Y'all better start waking up to these fucking terms that they're changing right in front of your eyes. Right in front of your eyes, they're changing the terms. They're calling the pigs peace officers. What? Every other video, I'm seeing them doing the complete opposite. They're not being peaceful. They're being fucking thugs. And I really cannot tell the difference between the modern day so-called police officer, male or female, and the criminals themselves. I really can't fucking tell the difference. All you see is tattooed motherfucking thugs. They look scarier than the criminals. Are they being told to put on tattoos? Where are the clean-cut police officers people are supposed to fucking look up to and respect? Because I haven't seen one in a long fucking time. Anyway. Okay. Are you listening to me, all you Freemasons out there who think that you're so smart? Well, you're not. This process produces a state in which the mind is pliant enough to have certain ideas implanted, ideas which resist a great deal of counter-influence. This was the secret of the mysteries, this and nothing else. Echoes of such training are to be seen in the rituals of certain secret societies without mystical pretensions which survive to this day. Trials, terror, expectancy, drinking, and the rest. That this fact was known in the past, folks, is evidenced by the words of Aristotle, who was exiled because he was said to have revealed something about the mysteries. And he said this: those who are being initiated do not so much learn anything as experience certain emotions and are thrown into a special state of mind. Well, what was this special state of mind? Folks, it was a plasticity in order that the conditioning might take permanent root. The psychologist William Walters Sargent, the greatest authority on this subject, says in his classic Battle for the Mind, it seems therefore that there are common final paths which all individual animals, though initial temperamental responses to imposed stresses vary greatly, must finally take if only stresses are continued long enough. This is probably the same in human beings, and if so, may help to explain why excitatory drumming, dancing, and continued bodily movement are so much used in such a number of primitive religious groups. The efforts and the excitement of keeping the dance in progress for many hours on end should wear down and, if need be, finally subdue the strongest and most stubborn temperament, such as might be able to survive frightening and exciting talk alone for days or weeks. Now, understanding what I just read to you, this quote from Battle for the Mind by William Sargant, can you still say that music plays no part of the conditioning of the mind? That the words in the music is not being entrapped by the subconscious of those young people who dance for hours listening to this music? If so, I think you better rethink that position, for it is a form of mind control, brainwashing. Dr. Sargent notes that Chinese experiments in mass excitation, breaking down, and reconditioning are based on same physiological principles as religious conversion and also individual and group psychotherapy treatments. Folks, these include the application of tension, fear, anxiety, conflict to the point where subjects are uncertain. And in this state of suggestibility, suggestibility is increased and the old pattern of behavior is disrupted. The fact that the devotees of the mysteries were thoroughly conditioned to them and felt they were important in their lives is seen in much historical evidence. Even in the 4th century of the Christian era, the Greeks were insisting that they would consider life unbearable if they were not allowed to celebrate those most sacred mysteries which unite the human race. And I'm going to stop here and say, take away the celebrations here in the States that are so popular. Christmas, Thanksgiving, even Halloween. Take away these holy days, because that's what they mean. When you say holiday, you're really saying holy day. You just don't know it. Strip these animals, strip the cattle, the sheeple of the united snakes of their holidays, and watch how crazy and insane they will become. Stop them from going to Sunday service to worship the sun. You will see how crazy these motherfuckers will get. Oh boy. Now, the work of those that pointed out the functions of mysteries as mind training and conditioning has, of course, evoked no answer. For those who still think that the rituals are merely symbolic representations of knowledge or facts. And indeed, they cannot admit this simply because they would be admitting their own foolishness and stupidity in the process. So they will resist at all costs and continue to go to their meetings. For to do otherwise would be to confront their own fallibility. And in human nature, that is one of the most difficult things for any individual to do. We all realize that. It's interesting to note, folks, that the ecstasy, which is produced by excitatory methods and is followed by manipulation of the mind, is still sought by members of many secret cults who are aware of the scientific explanation. You see, irregardless, even when they know this, they still seek it out because for them it fulfills some terrible need way down deep inside their gut. Their reaction is that the experience may well be induced by physical methods, But in spite of that, and this is what they say, he's talking about the mystery religion. It is nothing less than actual spiritual communion with a supernatural power. This is the point at which scientists and mystics cannot agree. The mystic feels sure that he has experienced something sublime. And who's to say that they haven't? Or, if you have not experienced it, you have no basis upon which to make a decision. But to experience it is to put yourself in a position to be controlled by others. So, we are in a quandary now. How do we explore this? The scientist tells the mystic that it is an illusion. He just simply will not believe it. The situation just reminds one of the time when someone produced the soul of a departed relative to tell a spiritualist that there was no life after death. Although this is alleged to have happened in Ireland, one can visualize it taking place easily enough in the mutually heated atmosphere of scientist versus mystic anywhere in the world. The orgiastic side of the mysteries also has a place in the sphere of psychology. The catharsis, or the cleansing of the mind, which the secret cult of the Cathari experienced after ecstasy, is paralleled by the modern therapist's procedure in bringing his patient to a state of excitement and then collapse before and implanting what he considers more suitable ideas in the mind. Christianity, of course, was not been behind in its use of the mystery system for initiates. For it was not until AD 692 that the everyday believer was ordered to be admitted to the worship of the Christians, following the period when it was thought advisable to celebrate certain parts of the worship in secret. You see, Christianity, in the beginning, was a secret society itself. Let me repeat that. For all you Christians, so-called Christians, because the majority of you are fake, phony frauds, who believe you're holier than thou and better than anyone else, open up your ears and listen once again. You see, Christianity in the beginning was a secret society itself, and the correct name for it was the Friendly Open Secret Society, although in the beginning there was nothing open about it. And what he's talking about here is when they had to practice Christianity in secret unless they wanted to get caught by the Romans, killed, executed, and tortured. Traces of this survive in such customs as that of the Greek Orthodox Church, where the priest celebrates divine worship behind a curtain, which is only taken away during the elevation of the host, since at that moment the worshippers prostrate themselves and are not supposed to see the holy sacrament. The reason given for the secrecy of the practice of the Christian cult gives a clue in explaining that the celebrant must be prepared by expectation. St. Augustine laid down that secrecy. St. Augustine laid down that secrecy was essential because the mysteries of Christianity were incomprehensible to human intellect and should not be derided by the uninitiated. Secondly, because this secrecy produced greater veneration for the rites. Thirdly, that the holy curiosity of those to be initiated into the experience of Christianity should be increased, in order that they might attain to a perfect knowledge of the faith. Holy shit. And to tell you all, quite frankly, folks, in my study of mind control, the Christian church would swell well beyond any conception or imagination of what their numbers could be if they had continued their laughter. Oh, sorry. If they had continued their secrecy. Saint Basil. Let me see. That's 17? Note, it's actually 27. That's a writing, folks. Tells how the fathers of the church were well instructed to preserve the veneration of the mysteries in silence. For how could it be proper publicly to proclaim in writing the doctrine of those things which no unbaptized person may so much as may look upon? Now, this all sounds silly to us today, but believe me, folks, there is nothing silly about it. And if it were practiced today as it was then, the Christian church would be more powerful than you can possibly conceive. And I wonder how many of the cattle out there, how many of you idiots and sheeple and zombies went to go see that new Superman movie, and without even knowing it, it implanted ideas in you. Some of you are fighting those ideas. But gradually, as you keep thinking about the movie, keep thinking about what you witnessed, little by little, the propaganda, the brainwashing of the film is going through you. Little by little, those of you who went to go see that movie, those of you who are weak-minded, isn't that what Obi-Wan and Yoda said, the weak-minded? Huh? Jedi mind tricks? How many of you went to go see that Superman movie, and even though you might have exoterically hated it, esoterically, it made you a zombie, even more of a brainwashed fool? Huh? Time will tell. Now remember, this is the results of our research. I myself consider myself to be a Christian, and that I follow the teachings, the words of Jesus Christ in my daily life. Not the dogma of any church, not the preaching of any minister or priest, but simply and only the words of Christ, seated upon the foundation of that which God gave us in our history, the moral code called the Ten Commandments, as they were originally given to Moses, and not as they were changed by man in the form of the Pope. Oh, you didn't know that the Ten Commandments were perverted? You didn't know that they were changed? You didn't know that the commandment that says thou shalt not kill really didn't say that? It said thou should not commit murder. There's a difference between murder and killing. If someone coming at you, you have the right to defend yourself and kill them before they kill you. But they didn't want you to do that, you see? See? They didn't want you. See? That's the difference. When you go out and murder somebody, you're doing it for another reason, an agenda. It's not out of survival. So they had to change it. They wanted you not to kill anyone. But of course, because if the people were brainwashed, were told if the people, if they read the original, which says thou should not commit murder, they would know that there's a difference. So if some fucking despot ruler got out of control, the people would go after him. Get it? But no, They didn't want you to kill anyone or anything. It's to protect them. It's to cover them. The perversion of the Ten Commandments, it was changed so that you don't go after the enemy once you realize that the enemy was in control of you. Oh, boy. They got you lock, stock, and barrel. Let me tell you, if they don't get you with goddamn politics, they got you with religion. You can't escape these motherfuckers. Oh, boy. The origin of mystery ceremonies seems to be in India, or at least the place in time when the Brahman priesthood started its initiations. The ceremonies were based upon the Hindu myth, but the procedure followed in training the aspirant as strikingly similar in Egypt, or is strikingly similar in Egypt. And Egypt profoundly influenced Greece. All right, time to take a break. I need a swig of the water. Let me play some música for your entertainment. Let me see.
So in America, black people should never be accused of being violent or advocating violence. In America, when a black man says, I have to defend myself, you should call that what it is, self-defense. And if America has the right to defend herself from her enemies, the black man in America has the right to defend himself from his enemies. If it's all right for please, I don't want to hear that. If it's all right, that has been done long enough.
Hold my marker like UEP, hell is revolver. Plotting vengeance, system bullet shells, sell to Martin, I'm stressed. Puffing cigarettes, going through cartons, I'm vexed. Sister Panther leaders went up on charges of sex. I never meet them, but I'm with them regardless, my guess. They die for freedom, then they die for martyrs, they're blessed. But some shit eaters in the pissy apartments obsessed. My thoughts of treason, what they did to the father. Jesse Jackson in the face of his best in assassins parade. If I meet him, I'ma hand him a magnum and whisper in his ear, leave none of them standing. It ain't fair, he ain't here, you still appearing in pageants. I'm magic gags in the dungeon, doors guarded by gunmen, beating me. But I'm sworn I'm off the secrecy. They will never weaken me. For the struggle to my fate reaches me. We either pimping the system or getting pimped by the system. Don't want no slice of the pie. We want control of the kitchen. Gotta get this bread up, nigga. And the business and boss up. Ain't no slacking or slipping, perpetrating no shortcuts. The spirit of the Lord, putting in work on the ground. Gotta sacrifice that blood. That's sweating that time. If we see it, we need it, we want it, we get it, we want it.
Now, what's left out here? And the reason it's usually left out is because any mention or discussion of the Babylonian mysteries or the Babylonian religion is usually met with much criticism and derision. Derision by those who believe that it was a terrible institution. The mysteries definitely came from the East, and the East in the mysteries still survives today. When one Freemason greets another, and he is not sure if he is really a Freemason, he will ask if he is a traveler, or if he is traveling, or if he is a fellow traveler. All, I might add, were the same code of identification used by the Communist Party in this country, because communism and the mysteries are the same entity. Let me repeat this again. A lot of you do not understand this. You think one's politic and another one's religion. It's one and the same. All, I might add, were the same code of identification used by the Communist Party in this country, because communism and the mysteries are the same entity, as are socialism and the mysteries. When they meet and this exchange takes place, the one being queried, the one being queried if he is indeed a member of the mystery religion will say, "Yes, I'm a traveler," to which the first or the inquirer will respond with, "Where are you going?" or "Where are you traveling? From where to where?" And the answer will be from west to east, for the east is the position of the rising sun, where the knowledge comes from. You see? For an early history, it certainly can be proven to have come from the east, and the sun, S-U-N, was the symbol of the intellect. It began by being the symbol of the unseen God of the universe and slowly transformed into the symbol of the intellect, the light, Osiris, Ra, Lucifer. Prayer, fasting, and study were the first requirements. When the Indian candidate prepared himself for the trials which were before him, all of this, folks, originated in Babylon at the dawn of civilization. For the actual site for the great gods and the final word or teaching, which would be implanted in his mind when it had become sufficiently prepared to receive it. And if the weather was cold, he would have to sit in the snow or rain naked. In the torrid heat, he sat in the full blaze of the sun, with 4 fires built around him to give additional heat. This was the first part of the undertaking, while he repeated prayers and repetitions, which included the invocation for his complete conversion. This latter concentration, folks, upon the desires of the candidate is applied in more than one of the mysteries. Some of the initiations, ceremonies, were cruel and painful. Coupled with the word, which is given during the ceremonies, it means that the power of suggestion is being applied continuously and should penetrate into the mind at every moment when it is able to receive it. This period of dedication was succeeded by one in which he visited the underground cave of initiation. And when it wasn't in a cave, it was in a tomb or a crypt, such as the pyramids of Egypt, which were never tombs of pharaohs, but were from the beginning until the end of their use, they were temples of initiation. Passing through a tunnel of complete darkness, the initiate emerged into the cavern, where 3 priests dressed as gods awaited him in a resplendent and intimidating array. After being addressed and partaking in the oration of prayers, the initiate walked rapidly around the temple several times. This called circumambulation, and was then carried through several subterranean and unlit caves. During this time, there were wails, screams, and shouts from every side, while illuminated specters and other horrors abounded. At the end of this terrible experience, the aspirant came to 2 doors, which, when thrown open to the sound of the sacred conch trumpet, the conch, folks, is a shell. The conch, folks, is a shell. Revealed a scene of brilliance and glory. This hall was full of every delight in the form of pictures, music, and perfume. The initiate walked to the altar in the room where he was again harangued and presented with his sevenfold cord, which was marked his passing through the initiation. Now, if we compare these proceedings with those that were said to be carried out among the Egyptians, the parallelism is startling even today. The candidate was taken to a well, which he had to descend until he came to a tunnel, torch in hand. He passed through a door which closed with a resounding noise, as if never to be opened again. He was met by frightful figures which offered him a last chance of going back. Then he passed through a fire, swam through a dangerous underground stream, and as soon as he reached the door and touched a ring to open it, a blast of air blew out the lamp, which gave the only available light. Some type of machine swung him over a bottomless pit, and just as he was on the point of exhaustion, an ivory door opened, and he found himself on the threshold of a resplendent temple of Isis. Here the priests received him into their company. He would go through a series of tests. He had to undergo fasting and what would nowadays be called indoctrination before he could be considered completely initiated into even the first degree. The foregoing experiences were followed by the higher degrees, those of Serapis and Osiris. And in the process, the wives of the priests would tease him and cajole him and try to get him to make love to them. Orgies, anyone? And if he had successfully resisted, then he could say that he had passed all the tests. But if he succumbed to their advances, he was not considered worthy. It is needless to outline the beliefs and methods used in the Chinese, Japanese, South American, and other mysteries, because while the legends which are inculcated may vary in some way, they are all essentially and basically the same. The training hardly varies at all. The real mystery of the mysteries, folks, is how and when man first discovered and the use certain procedures to condition other men and thus rule them and control them. And whether the discovery was instantaneous or gradual, or simultaneous, or at different times or places, but one cannot date doctrines as one can archaeological findings by radioactive carbon dating. And so, you have reached another milestone in your education into the mysteries, and this program has only half. And again, I must remind you, we have just begun. We are essentially covering 6,000 years of the history of a hidden religion known simply as the mysteries. To Christians, it is Mystery Babylon. To others, it is called the Invisible College. In all cases, it belongs to those who consider themselves in possession of the only true, mature minds, and thus the only ones capable of knowing certain advancements in technology, sociology, and many, many other things. They call themselves of the guardians of the secrets of the ages. Guardians of the galaxy? Huh? Guardians of the secrets of the ages. And I can assure you, folks, they are in complete control of all elements of our society, military, and government at this time. So it is essential that you learn these facts about them and their organization, so that we can decide our future. Don't go away, folks. We've got to take a short break. I'll be right back after this pause, and so will I.
See these poor people falling for the okey doke. They take it into jokey joke until they yell at holy smoke. What they've been calling a weed is sure answer. Cannabis does indeed cure cancer. They've legalized it, but I gotta let you know. Beware of Harry Anslinger 2.0. Another type of prohibition's happening real slow. Naturally, only corporations will be allowed to grow. That means people like Monsanto. And once it's genetically modified, how will you know? Just stick some labels on it for you be a believer. It's your kosher cushion indica. It's your super stronger sativa. They don't care about some people smoking marijuana. They want cannabis concentrates, persona non grata. These jokers take over your weed and guarantees your sadness. They don't really do that shit you saw on River Madness. That's how the culture flow. I feel on this stuff. Some people call it weed, but don't you know it's true? Power to the people. Fuck the stuff you heard. All that shit is fake. Get it straight now. It ain't fucking with my herb. Populous intoxicated. Populous intoxicated, populous intoxicated like never before. Populous intoxicated, populous intoxicated, populous intoxicated like never before. Populous intoxicated.
The cult of Mithra, the intercessor between man and the Persian divine power Ormuzd. I don't know how to pronunciate this. Ormuzd was once an extremely widespread one, for it is the original cult of the sun. From its origins in Persia, the faith spread to Babylonia, Greece, and finally the Roman Empire, where it struggled against Christianity at the latter's inception. Christianity won with the decline of the material virtues of the Romans, but there are people who worship the solar deity today, and even London had its Mithra temple. Mithra was said to give his worshippers success in this world, as well as security and happiness in the next. Sound familiar, doesn't it? Sound familiar, Freemasons? That's William Cooper talking. He was originally a genie, the worldly representative of the invisible power which ruled the affairs of men. Later, and the cult probably has a history of over 6,000 years, he became thought of by his devotees as not being just one of the 28 genii, but the only one which mattered, and the only one who could cater to the wishes and needs of the people. Thus it was that the ancient Aryan... What? Huh? Let me repeat that. Thus it was that the ancient Aryan worship of Ahura Mazda, the supreme being, was displaced by that of one of his representatives. Now, one way, folks, you can tell who or which corporations or which businesses or societies belong to these cults is look at these names, such as Saturn, Mazda, etc. Ahura Mazda the supreme being was displaced by that of one of his representatives, has produced little to give a clear picture of the rituals and beliefs of the Mithrists. A considerable amount of secret lore still survives in the East, from India to Syria, which gives one of exactly how the members of the cult thought and just exactly what their magical ceremonies were. That's right. A lot of the pagan names of these pagan gods were used to name your cars, your automobiles. But that doesn't matter, right? That's just coincidence. Driving around a car called a Mazda. But you think you're a Christian. But you're driving around in the car that's named after a pagan god. You're a bunch of morons and idiots. Just like you go on Sunday to church, thinking it's a holy day. Holy, yeah, for the pagans. Sun-worshipping idiots who don't even know that the sun itself is a symbol. They're worshiping the mind of man. They're worshiping men, and they have no idea. And then you wonder why none of your prayers come true. Because you're worshiping the wrong fucking God. Idiots, morons. And you're waiting for Jesus to come and help you. Never gonna happen. You're worshiping the wrong gods, and you don't even fucking know. Three ritualistic objects are used by Mithrists: the crown, equivalent to the sun, and power of the supernatural kind. The hammer or club. The hammer? Hammer and sickle? The hammer or club, symbolizing creative activity of mankind. And the bull, which stands for nature, virility, and increase. By the proper understanding of these objects and just exactly what they represent, Mithrists have it that the ordinary man can transcend his environment, can become great or successful, or can achieve what he wants to do and enter the delightful afterlife. What must he give in exchange? Nothing but worship to the principle which presides over all destiny, and control to the priests of the religion. Now, let's regress just a moment, and let me explain to you why the bull. Throughout the ancient world, you see the symbology of the bull. Now you have to remember, this history goes back 6,000 years. The first 2,000 of which, looking back as the Christian era. Now remember, this is the age of Pisces, or the two fish. The 6,000-year period started in antiquity when the sun was in Taurus, or the bull. That is the meaning of Baal. The golden calf was the representation of the house of the sun, or the age of the bull, or Taurus. It was really the same old mystery religion. The worship of the unseen God of the universe, represented by the sun, which over the centuries and the millennia has become the worship of the intellect, with the sun the representation of the light, or Lucifer, the one who gave man the gift of intellect. And I'm just going to stop here and remind you that this was from 1993, the early 90s. So there might be things that he says that don't no longer apply, since we're in 2025 right now. After the age of Taurus came the goat, or the ram, by the symbol of the goat, or the goat of Mendes. For in Mendes there was a temple erected to the worship of the mysteries. And since the sun was in the house of the goat, or the ram, the object of the exoteric worship by the masses was the goat. When the sun passed into the house of Pisces, or the two fishes, the Christian era began. We are now on our way out of the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. Once you understand that the ancient religion was a religion of the worship of the heavens, then everything begins to come together. And when you understand that they ceased believing in an all-powerful, unseen God or hidden God of the universe and became essentially pantheists, believing everything is God, but this is what they believe. They believe everything is God. They believe everything is God. They believe everything is God. That's the meaning of pantheists. They call this nature or the natural way. If you really want to understand what they believe, go watch those goddamn Star Wars movies again. Listen to what Yoda says, what the Force is. This is what they believe. That's their religion. You ever wonder why the Force had a negative and a positive aspect to it? You could do evil or good, but the Force contained both evil and good. There was no real battle between them. The only battle they had was who ruled, who was in control. The religion of the mystery religion of Babylon is in Star Wars. That's what they call the Force. Then you can understand how man became to worship the intellect, and the symbol that used to represent the unseen God of the universe came to represent the intellect, the use of which will bring man to the state of apotheosis, where man himself will become God. And then you begin to look at all the things that are happening today, and you see their symbology everywhere. Nowhere will you see it more prominently than in the Looney Tune fringe element calling themselves ufologists. You will see that everything to do with the so-called UFO phenomenon comes right out of the mystery schools. One reason, folks, for the loss of importance of the cult of Mithras, undoubtedly, is that admission was restricted to those who were thought worthy to receive the blessings which would come through the proper beliefs and use of the magical powers presided over by the Mithra priests. Christianity, for instance, was open to a far greater section of the population, even although the Christian mysteries were not accessible everywhere to all, until relatively late in our history. At the same time, some of the Mithras ceremonials were of such obvious emotional appeal that scholars are agreed that the purely ritualistic side of Christianity owes much to those of the sun god of the Persians. And if you have been listening to this program, you already know that Christianity was actually merged with the religion of the worship of the sun into what is now known as the Vatican. The lowest degree of initiation was known as the sacrament, and could be administered to anyone, theoretically, who could be relied upon to keep a secret, and would develop into a regular and devout worshiper. This degree was called that of the crow, and it symbolized, according to the present-day Mithras, the death of the new member, from which he would arise reborn as a new man. And today the crow is known as a phoenix, the death or symbolic death. And let me stop right there. Comic book character, the crow, makes sense, huh? Maybe that's another movie you should rewatch. The Crow, based on the comic book, The Crow. Didn't he come back to life again? Reborn as a new man. And the number of the man is 666. Y'all better start tying these fucking things together. This death or symbolic death spelt the end of his life as an unbeliever and canceled his allegiance to former and unaccepted beliefs. The use of the word crow probably derives from the ancient Persian practice of exposing their dead to be eaten by carrion birds, which is still carried on by the Parsi community in India, who follow parts of ancient Iranian religion as supposedly taught by Zoroaster. But if the crow symbolized death, it was also delegated privilege to take over the human body after death. Of course, in a sense, it was superior to humanity. Thus it was that the member of the cult was superior to the ordinary run of mortals. They believed themselves to be a separate race of man, and still do. Let me repeat that again. They believed themselves to be a separate race of man, and still do. Go read Genesis again. Go read Genesis again. Go read Genesis again. They believe they were made in the image of God, thus making them gods, and the rest of us were formed from the dirt, the earth. We are the subhumans. This is what they believe. Everything they touch, they pervert. Just because you don't believe in it that way doesn't fucking matter. They have the power. They're in control. They see themselves as if they are gods. Their initiates believe this shit. But it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. This is crap that they taught to people way back at the very beginning. To have control over their tribes. They taught them that they were descended from the gods in the stars. Unbelievable. The candidate descended 7 steps into the temple, which was an underground one, fashioned in the shape of a cavern, and made to look as much as possible like a natural cave. Initiation tests now took place. The newcomer was pursued by wild beasts, priests in animal skins, demons, and all sorts of terrors. And I'm not talking about real demons, the way you've been taught. They ain't no demons. It's not supernatural. It's not talking supernatural. It's talking about men wearing horrible costumes to appear like creatures. And all sorts of terrors. He had to fast for 3 days, and in this debilitated, altered, and plastic state, he was given a lecture by a priest on the responsibilities which were now his. Among these were the necessity to call brother only those who had been initiated. In the words of a Freemason today, whose son I happen to know, if you are not one of us, you are nothing. Those words were spoken to his son when he asked his father why the Freemasons that he knew and his father were persecuting a local businessman and trying to drive him out of business. Now bear in mind that his son was not a Freemason. Let me say those words again for you folks. If you are not one of us, you are nothing. All family ties were severed. Nothing mattered but doing one's job well and carrying out the worship of Mithra. The final ceremony took place amid the clash of cymbals, the beating of drums, and the unveiling of a statue of Mithra himself. This latter showed Mithra as a man carrying a bull by the hind legs. Now, the symbolism of this piece of sculpture was explained to him. The bull, in addition to symbolizing fecundity, was representative of animal passion, and it was also the house in which the sun dwelt in the first 2,000 years of the religion. It was through invocations to Mithra that mankind first discovered how to overcome this force and how to discipline himself. Therefore, the secret of religion was partly that the worshiper must restrain himself physically in order to obtain power over himself and over others. And this is the mystery of the Sphinx that man has been trying to decipher since man discovered the Sphinx in the modern world. It is simply this, that man is nothing but an animal with a brain, with an intellect. It is to remind us, folks, it is to tell us that no matter what you think or how high you get, you are still nothing but an animal with an intellect. Period. This graphic teaching of the diversion of sexual power into psychic channels shows that the Mithrists followed in essence the pattern of all mystery schools, which believed in the production of power through discipline. In this, they are clearly distinguished from the more primitive and the less important of the orgiastic schools, which merely practice indiscriminate indulgence, mass immorality, and so on. The neophyte in this initiation then drank a little wine from the symbol to show that he realized that the symbol is the means whereby ritual ecstasy comes, which puts him in touch with the higher powers. Now, 2 long lines of initiates knelt on either side of the low stone benches which traversed the crypt. Remember, George Bush, the former, the one who passed away, was initiated in the crypt or the tomb at Yale University into what is known as the Skull and Bones, the Russell Trust, the Brotherhood of Death. Woo! Got a lot of it. A lot of it. Better listen. That's right. All the music that I play on this channel has a meaning. Pay attention. Now remember, 2 lines of initiates knelt on either side of the low stone benches which traversed the crypt. And as the new member, accompanied by the priests who were initiating him, walked along the central aisle for the eating of the bread, a number of pieces of dried bread were placed on a drum, similar to those which were being softly beaten by one of the priests. The candidate ate of one morsel, signifying that he accepted Mithra as the source of his food. This bread, according to their beliefs, had been exposed to the rays of the sun, S-U-N, to absorb some of its quality, and thus the worshipper was partaking of the nature of the sun itself in this ritual observance. Sound familiar? Are you really practicing Christianity? I don't think so. But it goes deeper than that, folks. Because the sun is what enables all life to exist on this planet, being that the planet is at the perfect balance, where it is neither too hot nor too cold, and that the planet is tilted upon its axis, creating the seasons, which enable food to be grown in the more northern latitudes. Then, if the Earth was stable on an axis, where only one portion of the globe always was in direct alignment with the sun, then it would be too hot at the equator. There would be one narrow band in the southern hemisphere where crops could be grown, and it would be too cold in the northern and southern hemispheres. So this ritual observance has scientific fact behind it, in that the bread indeed did come from the sun. And now the initiate was taught the password of the cult, which was to identify him to other members, and which he was to repeat to himself frequently in order to maintain the thought always in his mind. I have eaten from the drum and drank from the symbol, and I have learned the secret of religion. This is the cryptic phrase an early Christian writer, Matronus, reports as being taught to the Mithras by a demon. Oh boy. The second phase of initiation was called the secret, and during this the candidate was brought to a state of ecstasy in which he was somehow made to believe that he had actually seen the statue of the god actually endowed with life. Folks, it's not likely that there was any mechanical method by which this was done, because no such apparatus has been found in Mithric temples unearthed. The candidate was brought up to the idol, to which he offered a loaf of bread and a cup of water, and this was to signify that he was a servant of the god, and that he was by what sustains my life, I offer my entire life to your service. The grade of the soldier may show that the military arts were responsible for a good deal of the power of Mithra worship in ancient Persia. Certain it is, in any case, that this degree greatly appealed to the Roman warriors, who formed a very large part of the rank and file of the cult during its western expansion. A sign similar to a cross, signifying the sun, was made on the forehead of the initiate, who was thus marked as being owned by the deity. A crown was placed before him, hanging from the point of a sword. This he took and placed it aside with the words, "Mithra alone is my crown." And this, folks, this takes place in every mystery that there have ever been. Remember, when Christ had went into the desert for 40 days and 40 nights, was tempted by Satan. Satan offered him the crowns of any or all of the nations of the earth if he, Christ, would just follow him, Satan. And Christ rejected it. The same thing happens in the mystery school. The initiate is always offered a crown, sometimes by the king or emperor himself. And if he accepts the crown, he is considered unworthy, and being, as it would be interpreted as a threat to the real wearer of the crown, probably would have been executed. He was considered only worthy if he rejected the crown, symbolic of the ruler, the ruling of the nation or people or area. The Persian crown, it will be remembered, from which pattern all present-day crowns are eventually derived, is a golden sun disk with a hole in the center for the head. It's jagged at the edges, representing the sun's rays, just like that worn by the Statue of Liberty. And these projections are turned up to make what is still known in Western heraldry as the Oriental crown. You can also see this representation as the halo in Christian art. Now the candidate has to prove himself in a mock combat with soldiers and animals in a number of caves. When the Emperor Commodus went through this degree of initiation, he actually killed one of the participants, although he was supposed to only make a symbolic slaying. Passed through the soldier degree, the Mithras was eligible, after a lapse of time, to be promoted to the rank of lion. He was taken again to the cavern, and honey was smeared upon his brow, as opposed to water that had been used in his acceptance into the earlier degree, his baptism. The degree of lion was taken only by those who had decided to dedicate themselves completely to the cult, and who would henceforth have no truck with the ordinary world. The lion was then a sort of priest, but rather more of a monk. He was trained into the rites of the cult and told certain secrets. The degree of Lion of Mithras could only be conferred only when the sun was occupying in the zodiacal sign of Leo, and that is about July 21st to August 20th, during the Persian month of Asad, the lion. Now, there is a good deal of astrological lore in Mithraism, and also an admixture of Kabbalistic numerology. The Greek branch of the Mithrists, for example, worked out that the numerical equivalent of the name, spelt by them Mithras, was 365, and thus corresponded of the days in the solar years. Well, since the deity was the sun, then this is exactly what it should have been. In the purely magical sense, Mithraism has it that both the name of the god and the rank which the individual holds in the cult have magical power. Thus, if a person wants to achieve anything, he has to concentrate upon the word Mithra, while preparing for himself the ceremonial repast and beating alternately a drum and cymbals. That the effect of initiation was to produce someone of an upright character is amply evidenced by literature of Roman times, in which the Mithrists were generally considered to be thoroughly trustworthy and improved people. Even their enemies could reapproach their own followers that showed the vitality of the Mithrist creed. Tertullian, in his De Corona, which is Latin for the crown, which he composed in the 3rd Christian century, upbraids the Christians, inviting their attention to the Mithrists as examples. De Corona actually means the crown of thorns. You, his fellow warriors, should blush when exposed by any soldier of Mithra. When he is enrolled in the cave, he is offered the crown, which he spurns, and he takes his oath upon this moment, and he is to be believed. Through the fidelity of his servants, the devil puts us to shame, he said. Now, there were 7 degrees of initiation in all, although there are some branches of the ecstatic side of the lore, which includes certain others, making the total 12. After Lion came the Persian, then the runner of the sun, then father, and finally father of fathers. The 12th degree, it is said, is King of Kings. Where did you hear that before? And where have we heard that before? And properly, this can be held only by the Supreme King, and preferably the Shahanishah, King of Kings of Persia. This very ancient cult, from which more than one present-day secret society is derived, is thus seen to contain many of the elements which underlay organizations of this sort. You see, folks, it is a training system. It attempts to produce members a real or imagined experience of contact with some supreme power. The magical element is there too, shown in the belief in the power of certain names to achieve things which cannot be done by men. Mithraism was not an anti-social society, in the sense that it did not conflict in its aims with the objectives of the countries in which it flourished, and hence it did not threaten the established order. It was tolerant of other creeds, just like Freemasonry is now. You can belong to any religion and join at the lowest level, but I guarantee you that when you reach the highest level, you will only belong to one religion. The tolerance of other creeds meant that it did not intend to supplant them. Its greatest festival, the birth of the sun, on the 25th of December, became Christianized. And it is claimed by those that still believe in the mysteries and celebrate them that Christianity did not so much supplant Mithraism as absorb it, accepting some of its externals and diverting to its own use. And that is exactly what has happened. Perhaps incongruously, a present-day follower of Mithra in England recently likened this phenomenon to the eclipse of the Liberal Party, because the 2 other parties have taken over its objectives and widened the basis. Only the actual initiates of Mithra know what has been lost in the process. So the young man in the Pythagorean bonnet, sometimes seen as the conqueror of the bull, or even as a man with a lion's head, still has his devotees, and folks, the sun still shines. So what does all this got to do with stars and stardust? Many people believe that Venus is the morning star, and in the ancient days they say that it was Sirius that rose before the sun with a red cast to it, and then turned a brilliant white as it rose up into the heavens. Well, folks, if you really think about it, the sun is the morning star. Good night and God bless each and every one of you. Woo! Oh, shit. Guess what we're going to be talking about tomorrow? Gnosticism, baby! Oh, boy. It hasn't gotten crazy yet. It hasn't gotten crazy yet, believe it or not.
How you tossing and turning Bobby Lewis? Who that is? Niggas probably clueless. Wake the fuck up. Show you how you do this.
Peace!
Whoever told you that dreams come true, huh? Whoever told you that dreams come true, yeah. Who told you dreams come true, my nigga? Yeah. True and living nightmares. Yeah.